Power outages are temporary inconveniences that most people handle with flashlights, candles, and patience until electricity returns. Then there are these individuals who apparently thought losing power was an opportunity to demonstrate creative problem solving that defied basic safety, logic, and common sense. These are real decisions people actually made when the lights went out, proving that some individuals shouldn't be left unsupervised during electrical emergencies. 1. When the power went out during dinner preparation, one person decided to finish cooking their meal by holding raw chicken over lit candles, believing that flame heat was equivalent to oven cooking and that candle-roasted poultry was a viable dinner solution. They spent 2 hours trying to cook chicken with tea lights, rotating the meat over multiple candles while insisting that open flame cooking was faster than waiting for electricity to return. The chicken remained dangerously undercooked while the person developed minor burns from handling food over open flames, eventually ordering pizza when they realized that candle cooking couldn't achieve safe food temperatures. 2. A technology-dependent individual tried to charge their dead phone by placing it inside their gas oven, reasoning that ovens generate power and that electronic devices could absorb energy from heating elements even when electricity was off. They left their phone in the oven for hours, checking periodically to see if heat had restored battery life, and became frustrated when their device showed no charging progress. The phone suffered heat damage that required replacement, and the person learned that ovens don't generate electricity and that heat doesn't charge electronic batteries. 3. During a winter power outage, someone decided to heat their house by lighting a charcoal grill indoors, bringing the outdoor cooking equipment into their living room and creating a dangerous carbon monoxide situation while trying to warm their home. They placed the lit grill in the center of their living room and closed windows to keep the heat in, not understanding that indoor charcoal burning creates deadly gas accumulation. Neighbors called emergency services when they smelled smoke, and the person had to be evacuated for carbon monoxide exposure while learning about indoor air quality and heating safety. 4. A creative problem solver attempted to create electricity by pedaling their exercise bike connected to Christmas lights, believing that human power could generate sufficient energy to restore their home's electrical systems through bicycle-powered generation. They spent hours pedaling frantically while Christmas lights remained dim, convinced that more vigorous cycling would eventually power their appliances and restore normal electrical function. The exercise bike wasn't designed for power generation. The Christmas lights barely flickered, and the person exhausted themselves trying to bicycle their way back to electrical civilization. 5. When their refrigerator stopped working, one person decided to preserve food by burying it in their backyard, digging holes in their garden, and storing perishable items underground where they believed soil temperature would maintain food safety. They wrapped groceries in plastic bags and buried everything from milk to meat, creating an underground food storage system that attracted animals and contaminated their entire food supply. The buried food spoiled quickly, attracted neighborhood pets and wildlife, and created a backyard excavation project that took weeks to clean up properly. 6. A safety-conscious individual tried to illuminate their house by filling glass jars with gasoline and floating lit matches on top, creating homemade fire hazards while attempting to design custom lighting solutions for their powerless home. They placed these gasoline lanterns throughout their house, believing that controlled gasoline burning would provide safe and effective indoor lighting during the electrical outage. The fire department responded to reports of dangerous fumes, and the person learned about fire safety, gasoline vapors, and why professional lighting exists for emergency situations. 7. During a summer blackout, someone decided to cool their house by opening their freezer doors and using box fans to circulate cold air throughout their home, not understanding that refrigeration requires electricity, and that open freezers actually generate heat. They positioned multiple fans around their open freezer and refrigerator, expecting frozen food compartments to air condition their entire house while running fans on backup battery power. The frozen food thawed and spoiled while the appliances generated excess heat, making their house warmer than before their cooling strategy was implemented. 8. A determined homeowner attempted to restore power by manually turning their electric meter backwards, believing that reversing the meter would somehow restart their electrical service and bypass whatever problem was preventing power delivery. They climbed a ladder to access their electrical meter and spent hours trying to physically rotate the device in reverse, convinced that meter manipulation would restore electricity to their neighborhood. Utility workers found them tampering with electrical equipment and explained that individual meters don't control area power distribution and that electrical restoration requires professional utility service. 9. When their home security system failed, one person decided to stay awake all night, holding a baseball bat while standing guard at every window and door, believing that power outages automatically attracted burglars who specifically targeted homes during electrical emergencies. They rotated between windows every few minutes, convinced that criminals monitored electrical grids and immediately responded to blackout opportunities by burglarizing powerless neighborhoods. The person spent 3 sleepless nights on security patrol while their neighborhood remained perfectly safe, and other residents slept normally during the temporary power disruption. 10. A resourceful individual tried to generate light by rubbing sticks together indoors, attempting to create fire using wilderness survival techniques in their living room while surrounded by candles, flashlights, and other appropriate lighting options. They spent hours trying to create friction fires on their hardwood floors, convinced that primitive fire-making skills were superior to modern emergency lighting and that stick rubbing would provide sustainable indoor illumination. The stick rubbing produced only wood shavings and floor scratches, while perfectly functional flashlights remained unused in their emergency supply drawer. 11. During a prolonged outage, someone decided to wash their clothes by putting them in their pool and adding detergent, believing that swimming pool water circulation would provide adequate washing action for clothing cleaning without electricity. They dumped entire loads of laundry into their chlorinated pool along with laundry detergent, creating a massive sudsy mess while ruining clothes with pool chemicals. The chlorine bleached and damaged their clothing while creating a foam disaster that took professional pool cleaning to resolve, and the person learned about chemical compatibility and proper laundry procedures. 12. A practical homeowner attempted to power their house using their car by running extension cords from their vehicle's cigarette lighter, believing that automotive electrical systems could supply residential power needs through creative cord management. They parked their car next to their house and ran multiple extension cords through windows, expecting their car's battery to power lights, appliances, and electronics throughout their home. The car battery died quickly under the electrical load, the extension cords overheated, and the person learned about power requirements, electrical capacity, and why cars and houses use different electrical systems. 13. When their sump pump stopped working, one person decided to manually remove basement water using coffee cups, spending hours scooping water 1 cup at a time while floodwater continued entering their basement faster than coffee cup removal could manage. They organized family members into a bucket brigade using kitchen containers, convinced that manual water removal would prevent basement flooding more effectively than calling for professional pump services. The basement flooded completely while they exhausted themselves with inadequate water removal methods, eventually requiring professional flood remediation services. 14. A creative cook decided to prepare hot meals using their car's engine heat, wrapping food in aluminum foil and placing it on their running car's engine block, while believing that automotive heat could replace kitchen cooking methods. They cooked everything from vegetables to meat on their hot engine, convinced that car engines provided adequate food cooking temperatures and that automotive cooking was a viable meal preparation strategy. The food remained undercooked and absorbed automotive fluids and exhaust residue, creating inedible meals while their car overheated from extended idling for cooking purposes. 15. During a communication blackout, someone tried to contact emergency services by writing messages on paper airplanes and throwing them out their window, believing that paper aircraft would carry their emergency information to authorities or helpful neighbors. They spent hours folding paper planes with emergency messages, launching them from their second-story windows while hoping that someone would find and respond to their paper airplane distress calls. The paper planes scattered across their neighborhood, creating litter while their actual phone service remained available for real emergency communication throughout the power outage. 16. A determined individual attempted to create internet access by building a makeshift antenna using kitchen utensils and aluminum foil, believing that homemade signal amplification would restore their wireless connectivity during the electrical emergency. They constructed elaborate foil antennas using pots, pans, and cooking utensils, positioning their contraption on their roof while expecting improved internet reception through creative metal arrangement. The improvised antenna provided no internet improvement while creating a potential lightning hazard, and the person learned that internet service requires functional infrastructure rather than homemade signal enhancement devices. 17. When their electric toothbrush stopped working, one person decided to maintain dental hygiene by brushing their teeth with a kitchen scrub brush, believing that mechanical cleaning action was more important than appropriate dental equipment during electrical emergencies. They used dishwashing brushes and steel wool for dental care, convinced that abrasive cleaning would compensate for lack of electric toothbrush vibration and provide superior oral hygiene maintenance. The improper brushes damaged their teeth and gums, while manual toothbrushes remained available and appropriate for power outage dental care throughout the electrical disruption. 18. A safety-minded homeowner tried to prevent food spoilage by moving their entire refrigerator contents outside during winter, believing that cold weather would maintain food preservation better than powerless refrigeration appliances. They arranged all their perishable food in their snowy backyard, convinced that natural refrigeration would preserve groceries more effectively than insulated appliance storage during power disruptions. Wild animals discovered the outdoor food buffet and consumed or scattered their entire grocery supply, while the person learned about food storage, wildlife attraction, and appropriate emergency food preservation methods. 19. During an entertainment blackout, someone decided to create their own electricity by vigorously shaking flashlights and electronic devices, believing that kinetic energy could charge batteries and restore power to their electronic entertainment systems. They spent hours frantically shaking phones, tablets, and portable devices, convinced that physical agitation would generate electrical charges and restore their electronic entertainment capabilities. The vigorous shaking damaged delicate electronic components while battery levels continued decreasing, and the person learned about energy generation, battery technology, and appropriate device handling during power emergencies. 20. A practical individual attempted to heat water for coffee by holding pots over their gas stove's pilot light, not understanding that pilot lights provide minimal heat and that proper cooking requires actual burner operation rather than tiny flame exposure. They balanced pots over small pilot flames for hours, expecting minimal heat sources to boil water for coffee preparation, while their gas stove's main burners remained unused during the power outage. The pilot lights provided insufficient heat for cooking, while proper gas burner operation would have worked normally, and the person learned about gas appliance functionality and cooking heat requirements. 21. When their washing machine stopped, one person decided to clean clothes by putting them in their dishwasher with dish soap, believing the dishwasher cleaning cycles would provide adequate clothing washing without electrical washing machine operation. They loaded clothes into dishwasher racks along with dish detergent, expecting kitchen appliance cleaning to substitute for proper laundry equipment and provide clean clothing during the electrical emergency. The dishwasher detergent damaged fabrics while the dishwasher wasn't designed for clothing cleaning, creating expensive clothing replacement costs and appliance cleaning requirements. 22. A resourceful homeowner tried to generate power by connecting multiple batteries together with random wires, believing that battery combination would create sufficient household electricity to restore normal home electrical function during the outage. They wired together flashlight batteries, car batteries, and electronic device batteries using whatever cables they could find, expecting their improvised battery bank to power lights and appliances throughout their house. The improvised electrical connections created fire hazards while providing minimal usable power, and the person learned about electrical systems, battery capacity, and professional power generation requirements. 23. During a cooking emergency, someone decided to prepare meals using hair dryers and curling irons as heating elements, believing that beauty appliances could substitute for kitchen equipment and provide adequate food cooking capabilities. They attempted to cook everything from eggs to vegetables using bathroom appliances, convinced that heat-generating beauty tools could replace proper cooking equipment during electrical emergencies. The beauty appliances weren't designed for food preparation and produced inadequate cooking results while creating fire hazards, and the person learned about appliance purposes and food safety requirements. 24. A determined individual attempted to restore television reception by climbing onto their roof and manually adjusting their satellite dish during the power outage, not understanding that satellite television requires electrical power for signal processing rather than just signal reception. They spent hours repositioning their satellite equipment, convinced that better dish alignment would restore television service despite having no electricity to power their television or satellite receiver equipment. The satellite adjustments provided no television improvement while creating fall hazards, and the person learned about electrical requirements for electronic entertainment systems. 25. When their garage door opener failed, One person tried to manually lift their automatic garage door by recruiting neighbors to help pull on the door, while not understanding that automatic doors have safety locks that prevent manual operation during power failures. They organized neighborhood lifting parties to force open their garage door, convinced that group strength could overcome automatic door systems and provide garage access during electrical emergencies. The automatic door system was damaged by forced manual operation, while a simple emergency release would have allowed normal manual operation, and the person learned about garage door safety features and emergency procedures. 26. A creative problem solver decided to illuminate their house by placing mirrors strategically to reflect streetlight and moonlight indoors, believing that light reflection would provide adequate indoor lighting without electrical power or traditional emergency lighting options. They positioned mirrors throughout their house in elaborate reflection patterns, expecting natural light amplification to brighten their home during nighttime power outages through creative mirror placement. The mirror system provided minimal light improvement while creating navigation hazards, and the person learned about light physics, reflection limitations, and appropriate emergency lighting solutions. 27. During a water heating emergency, someone tried to heat bath water by adding hot coffee and tea to their bathtub, believing that hot beverages would raise water temperature sufficiently for comfortable bathing during power outage conditions. They brewed multiple pots of hot coffee and tea using their gas stove, then poured the beverages into bath water while expecting caffeinated heating to provide adequate bathing temperature. The coffee and tea provided minimal water heating while creating stained bathtub cleaning requirements, and the person learned about heat capacity, water volume, and appropriate water heating methods. 28. A technology enthusiast attempted to charge electronic devices by placing them near their fireplace, believing that heat energy could restore battery power to phones and tablets through thermal charging methods during electrical emergencies. They positioned multiple electronic devices around their fireplace, expecting fireplace heat to charge batteries and restore electronic functionality without electrical power sources or proper charging equipment. The fireplace heat provided no charging benefits while creating electronic overheating risks, and the person learned about battery technology, charging requirements, and appropriate device storage during power outages. 29. When their electric blanket stopped working, one person decided to stay warm by wearing all their clothes simultaneously, layering every piece of clothing they owned, while believing that maximum clothing volume would provide adequate warmth during winter power outages. They put on multiple shirts, pants, coats, and accessories, creating bulky clothing layers that restricted movement while providing minimal warmth improvement over appropriate winter clothing selection. The excessive clothing layers created mobility problems, while proper blankets and appropriate warm clothing would have provided better comfort, and the person learned about insulation principles and appropriate cold weather clothing strategies. 30. A practical homeowner tried to preserve frozen food by packing it in snow and ice outside their house, not understanding that outdoor temperature fluctuations and animal access would compromise food safety more than powerless freezer storage. They buried frozen foods in snowbanks and ice piles, believing that natural freezing would maintain food preservation better than insulated freezer compartments during temporary power disruptions. Animals discovered the outdoor food cache while temperature variations caused food spoilage, and the person learned about food preservation principles, animal attraction, and appropriate emergency food storage methods. 31. During a ventilation emergency, someone decided to create air circulation by manually waving large pieces of cardboard throughout their house, believing that human-powered air movement would provide adequate ventilation and cooling during summer power outages. They spent hours continuously waving cardboard fans, convinced that manual air circulation would cool their house more effectively than opening windows or using battery-powered fans during electrical emergencies. The manual fanning provided minimal cooling while exhausting the person, and they learned about air circulation principles, ventilation strategies, and energy-efficient cooling methods during power outages. 32. A determined individual attempted to operate their electric garage door by pushing the button repeatedly and forcefully, believing that aggressive button pressing would eventually overcome electrical failure and restore automatic door operation through persistent activation attempts. They pressed the garage door button hundreds of times with increasing force, convinced that electrical problems could be resolved through determined button operation and forceful equipment interaction. The repeated button pressing provided no garage door operation while potentially damaging the control system, and the person learned about electrical failure diagnosis and appropriate garage door emergency procedures. 33. When their computer stopped working, one person tried to restore power by unplugging and replugging their computer multiple times, believing that electrical connection repetition would eventually restore power and bypass whatever problem was preventing computer operation. They repeatedly connected and disconnected power cables, convinced that persistent plugging attempts would overcome electrical outage conditions and restore computer functionality through connection persistence. The cable manipulation provided no computer operation while creating potential equipment damage, and the person learned about power outage effects on electronic equipment and appropriate device shutdown procedures. 34. A creative cook decided to prepare ice cream by putting ingredients outside during winter, believing that cold weather would freeze dairy products adequately for dessert preparation without electrical freezer equipment or proper ice cream making methods. They mixed ice cream ingredients and placed containers outside in snow, expecting natural freezing to create proper ice cream texture and consistency through winter weather food preparation. The outdoor mixture froze into solid blocks rather than creamy ice cream while attracting animals, and the person learned about ice cream science, texture formation, and appropriate dessert preparation methods. 35. During a laundry emergency, someone tried to dry clothes by hanging them near their fireplace, not understanding that indoor fire drying creates fire hazards and that proper clothes drying requires appropriate ventilation and safety considerations. They hung wet clothing directly next to their fireplace flames, believing that fire heat would dry clothes quickly and effectively during power outage laundry emergencies without electrical dryer equipment. The clothing placement created fire hazards while providing inadequate drying results, and the person learned about fire safety, appropriate clothes drying methods, and indoor safety considerations. 36. A resourceful homeowner attempted to create hot water by placing water containers on their car's dashboard in sunlight, believing that automotive solar heating would provide adequate hot water for household needs during power outage conditions. They filled multiple containers with water and placed them on their car dashboard, expecting solar heat concentration to create hot water for cleaning and bathing during electrical emergencies. The dashboard heating provided minimal water temperature increase while creating potential car interior damage, and the person learned about solar heating limitations, water heating requirements, and appropriate hot water alternatives. 37. When their alarm clock stopped, one person decided to stay awake all night to avoid oversleeping, believing that sleep deprivation was safer than risking late arrival to work during power outage timekeeping emergencies. They consumed multiple cups of coffee and engaged in stimulating activities to maintain alertness, convinced that staying awake was more reliable than alternative timekeeping methods during electrical emergencies. The sleep deprivation created health problems and impaired judgment while battery-powered alarm clocks and phone alarms remained available, and the person learned about timekeeping alternatives and appropriate sleep management during power outages. 38. A practical individual tried to charge their phone by rubbing it vigorously with wool clothing, believing that static electricity generation could restore battery power through friction charging methods during electrical outage emergencies. They spent hours rubbing their phone with various fabrics, convinced that static electricity could charge electronic devices and restore communication capabilities without electrical power sources or proper charging equipment. The friction rubbing provided no charging benefits while creating potential device damage, and the person learned about static electricity limitations, battery technology, and appropriate device charging methods. 39. During a cleaning emergency, someone decided to vacuum their house using manual carpet sweeping motions with their powerless vacuum cleaner, believing that manual vacuum operation would provide adequate cleaning without electrical power for suction motor operation. They pushed their electric vacuum around their house like a manual carpet sweeper, expecting mechanical cleaning action to substitute for electrical suction power and provide effective floor cleaning during power outages. The manual vacuum pushing provided minimal cleaning results while exhausting the person, and they learned about vacuum cleaner operation principles and appropriate manual cleaning alternatives. 40. A determined homeowner attempted to restore internet service by manually connecting and disconnecting their router cables repeatedly, believing that cable manipulation would eventually restore internet connectivity and bypass electrical power requirements for network equipment operation. They unplugged and reconnected network cables dozens of times, convinced that persistent cable connection attempts would overcome power outage effects on internet service and restore online connectivity through connection persistence. The cable manipulation provided no internet restoration while creating potential equipment damage, and the person learned about internet infrastructure requirements and power outage effects on network services. 41. When their electric mixer stopped working, one person tried to mix cake batter by shaking it vigorously in containers, believing that manual agitation would provide adequate mixing results for baking projects during power outage cooking emergencies. They poured cake ingredients into jars and containers, then shook them frantically while expecting manual mixing to create proper batter consistency without electrical mixing equipment or appropriate manual mixing techniques. The shaking method provided poor mixing results while creating exhaustion, and the person learned about baking science, mixing techniques, and appropriate manual cooking alternatives during power outages. 42. A creative problem solver decided to create artificial daylight by burning multiple candles in reflective containers, believing that concentrated candlelight would provide adequate indoor lighting for detailed tasks during daytime power outage conditions. They arranged dozens of candles in aluminum pans and reflective surfaces, expecting light concentration to create bright indoor lighting without electrical illumination or appropriate emergency lighting equipment. The candle concentration created fire hazards while providing inadequate task lighting, and the person learned about fire safety, lighting requirements, and appropriate emergency lighting solutions. 43. During a food preparation emergency, someone tried to blend smoothies by manually stirring ingredients very quickly, believing that vigorous stirring would create smooth beverage consistency without electrical blender equipment or proper manual blending techniques. They spent hours stirring fruit and liquid ingredients, convinced that fast manual mixing would create smooth texture and proper smoothie consistency through persistent stirring effort and arm strength. The manual stirring provided chunky results while exhausting the person, and they learned about blending science, texture creation, and appropriate manual food preparation methods. 44. A determined individual attempted to restore power to their house by flipping their electrical breaker switches repeatedly, believing that breaker manipulation would eventually restore electricity and bypass whatever problem was causing area power outage conditions. They flipped breakers on and off hundreds of times, convinced that electrical panel operation would restore power to their house and overcome neighborhood power distribution problems through persistent breaker switching. The breaker manipulation provided no power restoration while creating potential electrical system damage, and the person learned about electrical distribution systems, power outage causes, and appropriate electrical safety procedures. 45. And finally, the ultimate power outage disaster occurred when someone decided to fix their electrical problem by pouring water on their electrical panel, believing that water would cool down overheated electrical systems and restore power through panel temperature management during outage emergencies. They poured multiple containers of water directly onto their electrical panel and breaker box, convinced that electrical overheating was causing their power problems and that water cooling would restore electrical function through temperature control methods. The water created dangerous electrical hazards, damaged their electrical system beyond repair, and required emergency electrician services for safety evaluation and system replacement. The person learned about electrical safety, water, and electricity interaction, and why electrical problems require professional evaluation rather than DIY water cooling solutions that create life-threatening hazards and expensive electrical system replacement requirements. Here's the truth about power outages. They're temporary inconveniences that most people handle with basic emergency supplies and common sense, not opportunities to reinvent physics, safety protocols, and basic appliance operation. These decisions prove that when the lights go out, some people's judgment goes out with them, and that emergency situations don't automatically make dangerous ideas safer or logical. The real power outage here was in critical thinking, but unfortunately that can't be restored by flipping breakers or pouring water on electrical panels. Subscribe for more proof that basic emergency preparedness should include common sense, safety knowledge, and realistic expectations about how electricity actually works.